There are global activities that are trackable and knowable and documentable. One of them, of course, is the always on mass illegal immigration that's going on in the UK. It's gone on across Western democracies. The United States has been subject to this, Canada's been subject to this. All that forced immigration is going one way, people into these countries, and one thing is happening across the board. Existing citizens are being deprioritized for the newcomers. In the UK, it's happened. They've kicked people out of apartment buildings to move in the newcomers. They've then gone to farmers. And this is where we cross over into food. They've gone to farmers in the UK and said, yeah, we're going to need you to stop growing food because we're going to need to put some apartment buildings here for the illegal immigrants that we are welcoming en masse into our country. So you can't grow food anymore. Will the illegal immigrants need food? Well, it's none of your concern. We're watching in the United States as they've floated attempts, legitimately floated attempts to have the FDA ask you to voluntarily register your home garden. Just voluntarily. Because, voluntary registration is for our own good because the government needs to know if you grow taters or carrots. Well, then there's this. A whole series of articles pushed out through the Mockingbird media with the same message. Your home garden is a greater risk to the climate than mega farms run by Monsanto types. So your home garden where you walk out the door and water it and weed it and nurture it and plant it is worse for the environment than you going down to the China Mart in your car and picking up your groceries that have been trucked to the China Mart after having been brought from overseas on massive vessels or across the country on trains and ships, barges and trucks. No one can believe that. People can only spout it. There's a concentrated, organized effort to centralize food production. And, of course, the people who are running this want it centralized through them. Just the same way there's only 5 or 6 media companies on the big media side. They want there to be only 5 or 6 food sources on the food side. And so it takes an entertainer to step into this. I mean, you can see the way in the United States that Medicare and Medicaid have blockaded the healthcare system into becoming a medicine system. I mean, you see that, right? Entire doctor's offices, even if you are not on Medicare or Medicaid, they treat you like you are. Because they are so powerful, Medicare and Medicaid, they control so much that doctors' offices are built around them. You've probably noticed this change, right? That healthcare is now medicine. Your doctor's answer to everything is here's a pill or some surgery. So there are a whole cadre of doctors who've left that world. They've gone to direct patient care. This is a 36% year-over-year growth for people going to direct patient care, no insurance. That's expensive. You know what else is expensive? Time off work from a whole series of surgeries. You know what else is expensive? Being addicted to drugs for the rest of your life. So if you've been in something maybe just utterly catastrophic, a car accident, and it's limited your movement and maybe it's a traumatic brain injury, what if I were to tell you that stem cells, ethically gathered through placentas and umbilical cords, could help correct what ails you? I wouldn't say that if I hadn't seen it. I watched it happen for a lady at Renew.Healthcare in Mexico. That's exactly what they do. What if I were to tell you that the golf or the running that you had to give up because you do not want to have the surgery? What if I were to tell you that professional golfers are at Renew nearly every week because golf is a repetitive stress business? There's other professional athletes there too. They just don't get to say so. Why? Because their leagues want them to use their doctors only. If you're being told that surgery or pills for the rest of your life or you're simply sick of the pain, look at the investment and the return. Go to renew.healthcare. It's RENUE.healthcare. Tell them you're part of the Todd Herman Show family, and they'll tell you if they can help you. It's renew.healthcare, RENUE.healthcare. So Jeremy Clarkson, he's this TV entertainer, presenter, I'm supposed to say. He's an author. He does a show about car racing. He's kind of famous on that too. And he owns a farm. Since he owns a farm, of course, he's a rich, stinking farmer. But it's turned to Jeremy Clarkson to defend family farms because they're under attack in Britain, this time economically in the UK. They're under attack, this with an inheritance tax.
So, what is your message to this government?
Please back down, please.
And get the money from where?
Well, they've got 40 billion. I'll tell you where you get the... Walk into any of the offices around here. If you don't understand what somebody's job is, fire them.
And how
the civil service is too top, you know that.
Where would they get the money? Why do they need any? They have $40 billion. This is a BBC reporter talking with Clarkson. So it turns to a TV entertainer and an author, not the politician or leader, to make this case. And to be fair, there are some leaders in England who've been calling this out. There's leaders of the EU who've been calling this out, this attack on the food system. The farmers in Netherlands knew. They won. They won a political victory by using their tractors to blockade highways, which is a tactic I hate. They also went into France and sprayed cow poop on government buildings. That worked as well. It's dramatic, but it must be dramatic. Turns to Jeremy Clarkson to make the case.
And so we have all of this complication and all of this cost, and there's very, very little money in it. Very little money, as you know. And then we got the budget. Now, I know a lot of people all across the country in all walks of life took a bit of a kick on the shin with that budget. You lot got a knee in the nuts and a light hammer blow to the back of the head. Because we had pickup trucks, double cab pickup trucks, being reclassified as company cars. 211% tax rise there. £50 carbon tax on a bag of fertiliser. The basic farm payments altered in such a way that we're getting a lot less than we thought we were going to get. And then there was the inheritance tax business. Honestly, I don't know where to start. I know you've heard a lot about it today, and I'm not going to dwell on that. I will just say this. Rachel Reeves has told us, what is it, 72%? 72% of farms are going to be unaffected by this.
72% of farms going to be unaffected. He turned to the audience and asked them, raise your hand if you're going to be affected. Everybody was going to be affected. There's a technique that people like Bill Gates use. They build barriers to entry. They make it too expensive to continue to be a family farm. They know exactly what they're doing. It's the same reason that Mark Zuckerberg and his allies go to D.C. and say, regulate us. Regulate us harder, Daddy. They do that because they want to make it impossible for social media startups to thrive. They've got the money. They can pay the lawyers. This is game, set, match in many cases for new entries into fields like this. Fields. Picture something. When God created the world, spoke it into existence, he knew what he was building. He needed to provide for us common blessings, food, water, and air. In every one of those cases, the technocrats are looking to attack them and to blockade us from them. Let's start with food. Just make the case. There's only one reason that the AG, the Department of Agriculture, wants people to register their gardens. That's so they can know who has gardens. What's the next step? Obviously, it's to regulate it, because things must be regulated. President Trump should make sure that family farms are just absolutely as deregulated as possible. And private farms, your little garden, should never be the purview of government. But look at what they're doing with food, attempting to shut us off from being able to have something as simple as meat, water. In cities like Seattle and areas like King County, and in fact in Maryland, one of the few things that Hogan got right back there, a hopelessly liberal Republican, is he actually made it legal to store rainwater because it had been illegal. There was a time in Seattle and those surrounding areas where it was illegal to have a water barrel to store water. You have Los Angeles with these antiquated, horrible water pipes, and they know they lose billions and billions and billions of gallons of water through these horrible pipes every single year. What are they saying to farmers? You can't have the water. Well, why don't you fix the pipes? You can't have the water. Air. Well, at least that common blessing is freely available. Well, except for the fact that the same people who are trying to blockade us from food are trying to hoard carbon dioxide, that which we exhale, that which plants need to live. They're building carbon dioxide pipelines to take the carbon dioxide out of the air and store it as the precious resource it is. So they can pipe it into their greenhouses, but you can't use it in your private garden. When God created the common blessings, it was something he knew we needed to live. So we should thank God for that. We should also recognize that only someone who thinks they're a God would try to steal the common blessings from God's people. That's something to think about. The people who are doing this should probably pray about it. That is, if they have the capacity for prayer.